All right. Welcome to 9 to 5 Mac Watch Time, a podcast series exploring the world of Apple Watch and how it affects people's lives. I'm your host, Zach Hall, and joining me this week is my 9 to 5 Mac colleague, Michael Potuck. How are you, Michael?
Doing awesome. How about you, Zach?
Awesome. We're doing this live on YouTube. This is the first time that a 9 to 5 Mac Watch Time episode has had a video element to it. So if you're listening to the podcast audio and you want to find the video version, it's on 9 to 5mac.com. Well, let's say it's there, but it's also on youtube.com/9 to 5mac. So you can find it there. And we're going to talk about watchOS 7, the new update for the Apple Watch that'll be out this fall that Apple announced at WWDC 2020 this week. And Michael, you've been on the show with me before to talk about how you use the Apple Watch. You're kind of a fitness guru in the way that we all are. And,
Yeah.
we've got some cool new features that are in that area. First thing I want to mention is thank you to everybody who ran the WWDC 5K. That was from 9 to 5 Mac Watch Time and Rahul Mata, who develops the app Tempo for iPhone and Apple Watch. And it was such a cool thing to see. This was on Tuesday. People register, use the app Tempo to register for the run, and people sharing that they ran or walked their 5K distance on Tuesday, the day after the keynote, or Wednesday, and sharing their badge that they earned. Michael Stever, our 95 Mac colleague, designed this really really cool like animating virtual badge, just like you see whenever you
Yes.
complete an activity challenge in the activity app. And that was so cool. And then we've got 9 to 5 Mac stickers that everyone who participated is going to receive one. We'll have emails going out soon to all the participants and a free copy of How to Train Like an Iron Man with Apple Watch from Ian Blackburn and some really cool stuff. So like Rahul Mata, he developed his Tempo app. He developed signing with Apple and this 5K like virtual feature just so this could happen. I would have like relied on like a Google form or something, and it just would have been a mess. But it was so cool to see how like it came together, and seeing that energy on Tuesday was just so cool with everyone sharing with the hashtag WWDC 5K. So I'll have a link to like the Twitter search for the hashtag so you can like see what everybody shared. But
Yeah, I
I
love that. I
yeah
love
I
the collaboration or the community and yeah, just all the collaboration that went on with all that and yeah, so fun.
Yeah, and with having WWDC 2020 completely remote, which it's remote for most people most of the time, it just happens to be 3,000 developers or so who can attend, and then some more people who go to San Jose for the conference. Um, this year it was like everybody's remote, and this kind of thing is a good idea always anyway. But we'll totally look at doing this again next year because it was just really neat. And again, thanks to everybody. I had admittedly I've been doing like Peloton and elliptical and stuff, and I hadn't ran in a long time, and I was out of town visiting my mom. And I didn't pack running shoes. I only had like training shoes that are just really flat. And so I was like, I've got a lot of reasons to not run, so I'm gonna walk, which is totally like what the idea was to run or walk, all inclusive. And man, mad respect to the walkers of any 5K races. Like I've done, I've lost count of how many dozens of 5K races I've done around my town, and I've never thought about how tough it is for the walkers because what can be like a 30-minute activity for runners will necessarily be like a 50-minute activity for walkers, just
Right.
by walking in a walking pace. And my legs were like tingling from inactivity to going from like walking 3 miles. Like I've walked like a mile or so before, but I would never like intentionally power walked the 3.1 miles.
Yeah.
And
Back in I haven't thought about that either. And back at
yeah.
CES, last January in Vegas,
Uh-huh.
I was trying to avoid all the busy Uber rides and the other stuff. And so I
Yeah.
thought 3.2 miles to the next, place I need to go. No big
Yeah.
deal. And then I'm like, yeah, like speed walking all over Vegas and realizing like how intense it can be.
Yep. Yep. And I went on a route that I've ran plenty of times, so like I knew the points of halfway and everything. And the whole way there, I was like, "This is miserable," you know. And then when I got to the turnaround point, it was like, finally, my legs started feeling better and everything. But I was just like, man, this. I am only doing this because of this whole kind of virtual event that we put together.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. Everyone who participated will get a cool 9 to 5 Mac sticker mailed. We'll have more information on that very soon. So, Michael, let's talk about watchOS 7, the new update for the Apple Watch. It's out in beta for developers. Next month in July, there'll be a public beta for all users to try out before the
Yeah.
release. That's for the first time ever. They've never had a public beta version of watchOS. And then later this fall, probably September timeframe, we'll see this released to everybody out of beta whenever it's totally finished. But let's talk about some new stuff. So first up, we've got some new watch faces. Chronograph Pro with
Mm-hmm.
the tachometer, and that's kind of like the time and distance measurement, and you can change that to be like a 60-second or 30-second kind of stopwatch, and it's kind of the Apple Watch Series 4 and Series 5 version of the chronograph face. It's just now designed for like the full screen experience.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's sharp. So for me personally, I don't know if I'm going to use it, but I like the first thing that came to mind. I used to play soccer in high
Okay.
school and a little beyond, but I was just thinking about all the coaches out there that are going to love that feature.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, of course, runners too, I'm sure are going to love it. But since I'm not like just on a personal level, since I'm not timing myself a lot for bike rides or runs or things like that, or like
Yeah.
maybe sprints, I'm not doing. But that takes care of the
Yeah.
tracking. But yeah, that was kind of the first thing that popped into my head was like all these coaches and trainers and people that are helping people achieve their goals will probably love that watch face.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear from people who find the Chronograph Pro face, like having that on the watch face. I mean, there's been chronograph before since the first generation Apple Watch, but it's never been designed to be this full screen watch face with the kind of new corner complications that you've seen from the Series 4 and 5 watch faces. And now you
Yeah,
have that, and it's customizable from the tachometer mode to 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 6 seconds, and 3 seconds, and it kind of changes the whole appearance of it. And then they've got some cool colors too. Like that's one of the things I like about it is there's navy blue, cream, pale pink, which is like my skin tone, white. Then there's clementine, which is like this orange and black color that's kind of like rugged looking and kind of neat.
yeah,
Cat
yeah,
khaki, lemon cream, and these are all like dark tones. Even if they've got like names like lemon cream, and let's see, there's cerulean. Yeah, it's like that blue color. I guess that's how you say that. I
yeah,
like that one a
yeah,
lot. Pomegranate, and these are all like pine green, and those are all the colors. But like they're all watch face colors from other watch faces. But in this Chronograph Pro watch face, they're just like more rugged, like more what you think of like
utilitarian or
yeah,
yeah,
like what you think of like tactile gear, kind of
yeah.
color themes. So I think it's neat in that regard. Like you, I probably won't use it much, but I do want to hear from people who find the utility in it because I hadn't considered like you had who would find this useful.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And it is fun, like you're saying, like going through all these different personalization color options to
Yeah.
see kind of like the utility, tactical part of it. Like, but then Apple's still thinking about like how does it become really personal for all these people that are going to use it still.
That's right. And so you got the center complication of the sort of timer, stopwatch modes, and then you've got the four corner complications, and that's your watch face. And I mean, it does look like cool. It's like a stylistic kind of watch face. The only thing that's funny about it to me is that if you have any of the modes, so tachometer, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 6, 3, it says it on the watch face. And it's like, I wonder
Okay.
if that needs to happen. It's
Yeah.
like visually, it's like a funny thing. You don't really see chronograph on the chronograph face, but there it is. Next
I
up,
didn't
there's
think about that. Yeah.
yeah. Next up is the extra large face, which is historically it's like the time is very large and like a digital clock. Now there's this new option to have the large complication take up about like 2/3 of the screen, and then the time be up front on top. So it's a new version of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally there are photo faces that we've always had, but now you can have these color filters on those photo faces. So if you want it to be like more of a stylistic version of the photo face where it matches your band or your outfit or whatever, you can kind of
Yeah.
apply like a red tint to the photo or a blue tint or like whatever color you're trying to go for. So I thought that was kind of neat. And it kind of went under mentioned in the keynote, where it's like a change to the photo face. Cool.
Right, right. And it kind of reminds me of what was it, the Adobe Camera app that just kind of made a splash for iPhone.
Photoshop, yeah.
Yeah, the Photoshop camera. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yep.
But that whole focus there was like all these funky filters and tones that you can do to
Sure,
photos and share
yeah.
on social, and that just felt, yeah, like Apple's. I mean, always in tune with kind of some of these social trends. But
Yeah, the photo face too is like a funny history where I think it was like shown at the first Apple Watch keynote before the watch was out, and then it didn't ship in the first watchOS version, and then it came
oh,
to a
okay,
later update, and then they added like like live photos and photo albums and everything. And I think now you might be able to do like shared photo streams as like your photo face.
yeah,
But this is like the next change where now it's these color filters, and I think it's a cool thing because they do look like distinctly different than what you've seen before.
mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. Face sharing. This is something that we expected, and here it is. It's that if I were to, you can't do custom watch faces, but in all the configurations that
Mm-hmm.
you can do with colors and style and complications from apps, there is kind of a need to be able to say, I like your watch face. How do I recreate that? And not from
Yeah,
scratch. And so now you can, you just long press on the screen, like you go to edit a face, and there's a share icon right there, and then you can send it as a message right from the watch. You can also send these over email, or you can have them posted as a file, like on social media or online. And this is a cool thing. Like you can see, especially if we ever get into third party watch faces, where this will be very useful. But for
yeah.
now, it's there's I think there's obviously utility in it today. With, oh, I like the way that you customize your watch face. Send that to me, and I'll use that. So I think that's a cool thing.
I think for me, like, I think I spent maybe like 2017 and 2018 with like one or two watch faces, and
Sure.
I think it's easy to get in a rut with whatever you know, and
Yeah.
but like, and when I think about the times that I've switched it up, found something more useful, it's like figuring out like, oh, what's Zach using on his watch? I want to try
Hmm.
that, and then but then like I love that this sharing thing solves the whole problem of not having to recreate it manually and just the time it takes, and that's, I mean, part of the barrier for me is just like, do I really want to go through? I know it sounds like it's a total first world problem, but like,
Right.
do I want
Right.
to go through the time to create this whole watch face from scratch? And I
Hmm.
just love the idea that it's like, boom, you can share it. There it is.
And you could even do something like, if you've got your set watch faces and you want to kind of create a backup of them per se, you could send them to yourself. You could save the files, and then you've got those configurations, and then you could set up a new watch from scratch without doing like a restore, and you've got
Yeah.
your watch faces the way that you like them. And I think that's a pretty essential thing. The other big part of this watch face sharing story is that it kind of like what we talked about in over the past few months and thinking about how this would work is, if you share a watch face with third party complications, what happens? And the way it works is that it will prompt you to download or purchase the app that has the complication optionally if you want to have the full recreation of that watch face. And you know app discovery is a kind of a challenge in the watch, because Apple wants you to have apps that are independent on the watch, so that there doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to be an iPhone version of that app. Like Geneva Moon from David Smith comes to mind. But you've got to know to search for it in the App Store or discover it if it's featured. But if it's shared as a watch face, between friends, on the App Store, or on a blog or something like 9 to 5 Mac, then all of a sudden it's like one tap and you can install the watch face with that complication installed, and then you're prompted to purchase the app. So it's a really cool thing.
Yeah. I love it all.
Yeah. And then there's speaking of complications, there's this whole new thing where for the first time, third party developers can have multiple versions of complications of their app on one watch face. So before, Apple could do this, like weather would have wind and temperature and conditions and rain percentage, all those things. It could have like
Yeah.
the weather app is like five complications. But if you have an app like, back to David Smith, his WatchSmith app, which is all about complications, you get one complication per watch face. Starting with watchOS 7, that changes, where they showed examples like Nike Run Club having just multiple versions of complications, and you can make through that method, a whole watch face dedicated to Nike Running Club, with different stats about like pace and last time you ran and that kind of thing. And it kind of changes the way a watch face can be in that instead of having, one slot for one app, you can have every slot be different versions of that app. And this kind of becomes like an app watch face for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's part of what face sharing is all about too, is that on the App Store, you'll see Nike Run Club promote their watch face as like a thing where suddenly, like, they've had this style on the Nike watches, but if you just want like a Nike Run Club watch face on any watch, one tap install, and all of a sudden it's like you've got like a Nike Run Club focused watch.
Totally.
Pretty
And
cool.
and I guess the overall goal too. I mean, hopefully from Apple's perspective and just from users is opening this up is going to make it more enticing for developers to create new apps, and it's going to create better experience and just kind of move the whole watch OS ecosystem forward, huh? Did I lose you, Zach?
Hey,
Hey.
I hit Command R on a page and it wasn't the correct page. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
Nice. Say what you were saying again.
Oh, yeah, I just love the idea that I mean, with the history of watchOS, we over the years we've seen some companies dive in and create apps, and then a year or two later they abandon it, and um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's encouraging to see the platform opening up, even in these small ways that will hopefully, yeah, just kind of give confidence to developers, like, hey, we want to see more ideas, more creativity, more options on watchOS, and we're making it better for you as a developer to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the app story from the start was you had Watch Kit where you could make, um, you know, it all runs on the phone and sends data to the watch, and it can update, every now and then, but not frequently. And now the watch is becoming just, the watch has matured pretty fast, but the app story for developers has not. It's been kind of gradual, and
Yeah,
now we're getting to a point where you still can't do third party watch faces, which will be a big opportunity if they ever do that. But you can do a whole lot with complications, and kind of like make your app the watch face. And kind of the parameters that Apple sets for you. And speaking
yeah,
of all of that, there's so last year Apple introduced SwiftUI, which is like a new way to code app experiences, I guess both like functionally and visually, and it made watch apps much more capable, um, with what they can do, how they can be created, and everything. And this year, there's now the ability to make the complications based on Swift UI, which what that means for developers and the way it'll affect users is that a developer can take, a big code snippet from their app and make that the complication. So like think about
okay,
the big large complications on like infograph modular or so, where you've got like a big rectangle. If you've got that same kind of layout in your app, that can just be the complication too. And all of a sudden, you've saved a lot of work and you shipped a lot more functionality in on the watch face. Like you've literally got a part of your app on the watch face functioning in
yeah,
that way.
and something the user's already familiar with. This they're going to feel right at home with.
Yeah, so that's really neat. And then you've got some new. So Apple uses SwiftUI for its apps. Like they turn their apps from how they were created to using SwiftUI, and I think we're seeing that the benefits of that this year, where you've got new complication types from Apple. So there's always been this ability to have the camera remote app on the watch, where you launch the camera remote. You've got a viewfinder of your camera from your iPhone, and you can remotely tap the shutter button and have it take a picture on your phone.
Yeah,
Now there's a complication for that where it's like one tap and you get there. Same thing for world clock, where you can now have like what you would see in the world clock app on your watch face. Moon phases, which is just like really interests me, where you've got this big grid of like the phases of the moon, like you'd see in like a weather forecast. And then shortcuts. So years ago, Apple bought Workflow, which had an Apple Watch app where you could run these, kind of workflow automations on your phone from your watch. When
yeah,
Apple bought Workflow and turned it into shortcuts, the watch app was gone. It was all based through Siri on the watch. Now there's I guess a SwiftUI created shortcuts app and a complication, which is like basically the app on your watch face. And then developers will be able to use the same thing, so that it's going to be kind of really cool with what we see with complications from watchOS 7.
Yeah, yeah. And then kind of tying into that too, like it'll be interesting to see how the widgets on iOS 14, you can have like a widget with multiple shortcuts right there, and just
Yeah.
like,
And they really tied, like whenever they introduced watchOS or iOS 14, they kind of told the widget story from the perspective not of like we've done this on the Mac with dashboard, which went away. We've got widgets sort of now that today in the Mac. Um, they instead framed it as, and of course they didn't say like Android has widgets and now we do too. They would
right.
never do that. But they were like on the watch we've had these fast interaction app experiences, and we're kind of taking that idea and bringing it to the iPhone now with this new version of widgets. So and widgets are all about information and not interaction. So like it's not like
Yeah.
using a part of the app. It's seeing data from the app, and then you can kind of launch the app from that experience. So same thing as complication on a watch face for so long. So um,
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
yeah, like you don't have a calculator widget or complication on the watch face. You've got like a launcher, and then the big value is if there's something that can present data that changes over time, and it's just like a
Yeah.
glance, and you don't even need to launch the app.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That was their whole big thing, right? With the WWDC talk on the widgets was like glanceable. That's like they had three. I think it was glanceable, personal, and relevant, or I forget what the third one was. But yeah, that first one was like glanceable. We're just like big focus, glanceable.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's take a break here. I want to talk about three sponsors really quickly for 95 Mac Watch Time this week. The first is Mac Stadium. Mac Stadium is a provider of cloud solutions built on Apple Mac hardware. As more Mac teams are working from home, having your Mac build infrastructure in the cloud can make it easy for app development to continue uninterrupted. No need to have someone in the office keeping an eye on the Mac. Let Mac Stadium do it for you. If you're building apps for the Apple ecosystem, learn more about Mac Stadium at macstadium.com/9to5Mac. And as a special offer for 9 to 5 Mac readers and podcast listeners or viewers during WWDC week this week, Mac Stadium is offering half off your first 6 months of a Mac Mini subscription with promo code WWDC2020. So visit macstadium.com/9to5Mac for details. Next up is Clean My Mac X. So just like Apple Watch helps you take care of your health, Clean My Mac X takes care of your Mac. It's a macOS cleaner, a performance monitor, and a malware remover, and occasionally even a lifesaver. Clean My Mac X makes it super easy to identify and remove gigabytes of hidden junk and instantly visualize your disk space with its Space Lens module. I love that name. It's really Space Lens module. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Once you finish your WWDC run, if you haven't, go run, celebrate this moment. Then you can save 30% off Clean My Mac X as a reward. Go to macpaw.com/9to5. It's macpaw.com/9to5 to get Clean My Mac X with a 30% discount that's valid until July 5th. And then finally, we've got Pillow, and Pillow is a sleep tracking app. And we're about to talk about Apple's version of sleep tracking, but I'm going to go kind of off script for Pillow this week. Pillow is a dedicated sleep tracking app that's been around for years, and they've kind of evolved and matured. And there's things like nap tracking and granular data that you get from Pillow that you're not going to get from the built-in sleep tracking app. And then the last pitch I'll say is, if you don't want to run the beta, the developer beta or the public beta, and like screw up your Apple Watch battery life and risk wrecking your streaks, try Pillow, because it is a sleep tracker that works with the health app using HealthKit, just like the watch version, except it's more granular because the watch, as we'll discuss, is kind of weekly and monthly summaries, and Pillow can be granular where it's nightly, so you see like how each day of the week was. So search the App Store on the iPhone or the Apple Watch for Pillow and give it a try. All right, let's talk about sleep tracking. So this is the big new feature of the watch this year. Really, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's been a long time coming. Apple bot betted a few years ago, which is this physical monitor that goes under your mattress and works with an iPhone app, and that's how you monitor your sleep. They have a watch app that went away. I think it came back, but the idea there is it's great, but it's about the cost of an Apple Watch Series 3, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it only works if you're sleeping in your bed, and so if you travel, it's kind of a no go. If you've got like kids that comes up in bed, it's going to screw up your data. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's not perfect. And I've never been a huge fan of that approach when the watch can always be with you. And this is the way that they frame sleep tracking because one of the answer or one of the questions about sleep tracking is what's the point? And Apple kind of gives their answer to this with this pitch. And they say sleep is one of the most important aspects of your health, but also one of the least understood. So there's that mystery there. Tracking is a good start, but the new sleep app goes further. It helps you create a schedule and a bedtime routine so you can meet your sleep goals. And so the idea there is that like we all get that 8 hours of sleep is ideal, and that going to sleep can be difficult, waking up can be difficult, and so zoom out, and it's not just about the Apple Watch for sleep tracking. It's that you do get more data that way, but you can also use your iPhone with iOS 14 to kind of create these routines with sleep mode where there's something called wind down, which works on the phone and the watch. And you set an amount of time, like the default is 45 minutes before bedtime. Your phone will go into do not disturb. You've got this lock screen on top of your lock screen to get through before you can interact with your phone, so it kind of discourages use. And
Hmm.
it'll slowly dim the screen on your phone and watch before bedtime. So that's pretty cool. Then they once you're actually sleeping, then the watch goes into this mode and the phone, I believe, where it's like the screen's
Yeah.
off. You've got to kind of like tap through to get through to it. On the watch, it reminds me a lot of the water mode where you've got your watch face locked, so you got to spin the crown to get back to
Hmm.
it, and that's so you don't accidentally like touch the watch face and call someone in your sleep and like hello snoring,
Yeah.
you know, and also just saves battery life and everything. So that's pretty cool. There's no notifications while you're sleeping. Do not disturb is
Hmm.
enabled. And then kind of the watch angle to it all is that it does use the accelerometer to and the heart rate monitor to try to like gauge your breathing habits over the period of rest, and then if you're awake or not. So obviously, if you get up to go to the restroom in the middle of the night, then the watch is going to know that you were out of bed for that period until you kind of go back to that stationary point.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think, Zach, about so we're not getting like data on, hey, how long was I in REM cycle and
right.
some of those things? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the way it is like you're not getting that stuff. You're not even getting like a nightly sleep report. It's like,
Yeah.
like there are some really cool ways to do sleep where it's like you had a bad night of sleep last night. Don't expect yourself to do too much today.
Yeah.
You're not getting
Set
that
pro
from
set the right expectations.
exactly like don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
So for that, it's like you're not getting that stuff. Part of me thinks that there's going to be another part of the sleep tracking story to tell that requires better hardware, a newer processor that's designed for sleep tracking,
Mm-hmm.
and that this is kind
Mm-hmm.
of this is for everybody else until there's a new watch, and then maybe that'll be more capable. Surely, like because
Yeah,
they've done
yeah.
kind of the basics of what you would expect, but not anything super mature like you even get from third party watch apps.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting, and then also the fact that it is like a weekly summary or a monthly summary and not daily. I think it's got to be because they think that it'll take that they've got a better hardware in the future that'll which is cool like because we looked at sleep tracking guys. We know it's coming. We don't know if it'll require a new watch or not. And
Yeah.
I don't think I ever considered that they'll do basic sleep tracking for all watches and then advanced sleep tracking for a new watch.
Yeah. And I mean that's clever too because you got all the people with existing watches that can try it, get a taste, and then say, "Ooh, actually, I want more, and I will upgrade to the next watch."
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in the chat, especially mentioning, it's difficult to manage battery life and sleep tracking with a single watch, and I totally agree with that. I've tried during it's a beta cycle, so battery life isn't going to be optimized yet. But it can be tricky to have one watch and charge it during the day without missing out on using it for tracking, and get your sleep data. So there's a few things that they put into watchOS 7 and iOS 14 to kind of address that. One
Yeah.
is if you have less than 30%, they don't recommend that you track your sleep, like, and it only uses between like 5 and 10% of your battery to track sleep. But the idea is you want to be able to use the watch when you wake up and charge it some, but not have to do a 0 to 100 charge.
Yeah,
Because
right.
if you're going from like 50 to 100, it's just half the time of 0 to 100 basically. And then
Yeah.
also, once you charge your watch now, if it reaches 100, you'll get an alert on your phone that says your watch is charged now. And so that's a whole new feature that like there used to be watch apps that tried to do that, and it was kind of unreliable.
Yeah,
Now Apple's built that into the OS, which is it's got to be because of sleep tracking for this reason. Um,
totally.
but you can say like it's all opt in, and each part of the process, like whether you do wind down or not, what your alarm time is, that kind of thing, what your bedtime is, like it's all customizable. And you can even say if you have two watches, like I've got a Series 5 and then an old Series 3 that I have been using for sleep tracking anyway, and I can
Hmm.
say don't use the Series 5 for sleep tracking. I'm never going to sleep with it. And then do use the Series 3, and so that'll let the watch know like don't waste energy on trying to decide are you awake or not. And then for this other
Yeah.
watch, do use that one for this feature. And so that's I think it's kind of unfortunate that a lot of people will need two watches to do this. Um, but it's just the difference in like a Fitbit being a very basic thing
Yeah.
to the watch being a much more
Yeah.
capable thing. And so, if you use a lot of the watch features, then it's going to be tough to do it with one. Maybe that gets addressed in a future watch though, where it's, super low power chip and it's kind of optimized for this process. So,
I
so
wonder a couple things if like portable watch chargers will sales will kick up because people are going to want to, as maybe as
yeah,
things resume from the pandemic and people go back to work, people are going to want
yeah.
like to be able to charge it, easily, or
This is
maybe
one of those
people.
things. Remember when it was rumored that Apple was going to do the thing with the iPhone, like Samsung's done, where you can put your, AirPods, your watch in the back of your phone, and then like
Yeah,
top it
reverse
off.
wireless charging.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That would
Yeah.
be useful here, I think. you know,
Yeah, they
because all of a
would.
sudden your phone is the portable charger. So
Yeah.
this all kind of makes me. It's cool to use now, and I'm glad it's here because the story so far has been download an app to do this, which is awesome.
Hmm.
And those apps I think are more capable today than what Apple's doing, and you can use them in conjunction with the wind down modes, the new alarm tones.
Yeah.
You can mix it all together and have like the most data driven experience. But it's nice now that you don't to say the Apple Watch has sleep tracking. It's always been like an asterisk of like, well, you got to go and add it. It's not built in. Now it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's really cool. And then whenever you wake up in the morning, you'll get an alert. Not an alert, but like on your watch face, it'll say, "Here's the weather today. Here's your battery life, so you know how soon you need to start topping it off. You need to get through the day."
Yep.
And then you don't get alerts until you pass that screen, so you're kind of in control of when you're bombarded with everything.
Yeah. When are you
um,
ready to like, yeah, take the day on?
that's right. So sleep tracking, I kind of think like what we've got now is really cool, and still use third party watch apps if you want more details. And then maybe in the fall we'll see new hardware like a Series 6 watch that is just all about sleep
Hmm.
tracking. Maybe we won't, we'll see. But
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, yeah. And then next up, there's some new workout types which I think are really really neat. Dance, functional strength training, core training, and cool down. And so there's always been this umbrella category of workout types called other, and you can label them things like dance, strength training, core training, but they're just kind of generic workout types where it tries to estimate calories, but there's no super optimized intelligence about detecting movement and calculating that into what you're tracking. And so with dance now, it'll be able to determine, are you doing an upper body dance or a lower body dance
Yeah.
that isn't necessarily the same as like a running, kind of rhythm.
Right.
And
Not,
give
yeah.
you
Not predictable.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I know you were saying to me offline that like this is going to be popular in your house.
Yeah. So my wife is like really latched on to Peloton's dance cardio workouts. She keeps asking me to do one, and I think I actually would enjoy it. I just haven't yet. But anyway, so I'll test it out with her. But I
You know
think
what?
she's gonna be excited to use this.
Our colleague Ben Lovejoy is the Tango expert. I wonder if he'll
That
log some Tango workouts.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, that'd be interesting to know, like the different types of dance, how intense they are, what kind of calorie metrics people see,
And
heart rate.
I think something cool would be log an other dance, and then kind of test that on a previous watch version, and
Yeah.
then log a dance workout and see like how different is the credit that you get and the data that you get. Because it's going to be more accurate. I don't know if you'll get more or less credit, but it's going to be better data,
Yeah.
for
Oh, that's a
sure.
great idea. I'll have to test that out and do the same like Peloton cardio dance workout
Yeah,
with on watchOS Watch before 7 and on
yeah,
watchOS
that's
6.
that's a great idea. Strength training and core training, those are two things that you could label before, but they've never been, optimized with like an algorithm behind them to give the best data. Now they are. And then my favorite is cool down because like I know as someone who runs, or has ran before, that um, you know, it's a really good idea to kind of warm up, which is cool. Maybe we need a warm up workout. But then
Yeah.
also, do your run and then not just go from like running to nothing, to go from running to like, a walking pace, for, maybe 5 minutes and then stop, your activity. And so far you could do something like take your running workout, add a walking workout to it, but then you kind of like look at that as like a different set of data where your walking workout would be like kind of a power walk, not a cool down walk.
Right,
And
right.
and and now you've got this workout mode called cool down where you add it to any workout type, whether it's elliptical or running or dancing or strength training. You've got cool down now so that your actual like primary workout, the data is contained
Yeah.
and it doesn't mess with your pace and averages and everything. So
I
cool.
I think a lot of people too, who are Apple Watch users are going to be self-competitive, and it can be easy to be in this mode where it's like, well, it's part of the workout, so I got to keep the heart rate up,
Yeah.
or I got to keep the numbers here, and so I think that is really helpful. I know it sounds small maybe to people who aren't yet using Apple Watch in that way, but um, when you are, I think yeah, having a cool down actual workout specifically is really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. It's neat. And then there's some new stuff like so for example in the Maps app now it's a feature kind of borrowed from iOS 14 where in select cities you'll be able to have cycling routes and maps, and it's not just like this is where
Yeah,
you can safely ride your bike, but it's like this is what the elevation will be if you are okay with saving some time and taking the stairs. Here's an option for that. If you don't want to take the stairs, you don't want to go on this like steep climb, you can avoid stairs altogether or different elevations. You can find places like bike shops and coffee shops along the route. It's only in a few cities, so New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then Shanghai and Beijing in China. But I imagine it'll come to more major cities, and they kind of got the big bike cities in the U.S. at least. So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
I would imagine like London is a pretty big deal to add for cycling.
Yeah. Pacific Northwest too. So like, yeah, Seattle and Portland would be more huge bike cities that I would imagine would come soon too.
Yeah, so that's really neat. And that's also on the iPhone. And then next up is hand washing. And so like who would have seen this coming, if not for the global pandemic? So
Right, right.
it's like as we're all more conscious of how to like this would always be useful, but it's especially useful now.
Hmm.
How to prevent the spread of germs and um, you know take better care of our hygiene and each other. There's this new
I
feature. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I think the implementation is sharp here too, with it being automatic.
Yeah.
Because Android Wear OS got this feature a little bit ago,
Uh huh.
but it's kind of like a notification that pops up, and then you have to tap something, from what I understand.
So it's
Uh,
kind of more along like the breathe reminders on the watch,
yeah,
where you kind of
yeah,
schedule and opt in. So this is off by default, but if you turn it on, you can have your watch do two things. One is when you go from you know out and about work, shopping, wherever, and you arrive home, the watch can then remind you to wash your hands. So that's kind of the changing states position. And so that's really neat that you've got that kind of just tap on the wrist of like, hey, you're home now, wash your hands. So you don't like
yeah,
spread everything you caught out there to
yeah,
people in the home, and create a hot zone. And then the other thing is if you are washing your hands, whether from an alert or just on your own, the watch can detect based on hand movements and the sound of like water running that you're washing your hands. And so if you're doing like a quick like 5-second hand wash and it detects that,
It's
and you
like,
stop. It's like, wait
hey,
a second, that was almost effective, but you should wash your hands for 20 seconds. Here's a countdown with 20 seconds, and you're 5 seconds in. And
yeah,
and the user interface for this is so like just clever and friendly that it's like bubbles,
it
creating
is.
the countdown clock and the numbers. So it's neat, and people certainly ask for this. I mean, I saw people asking on Twitter like replace the activity rings with like washing your hands rings for
Yeah.
this moment that we're in.
I
Um,
wrote I wrote a tutorial that ended up, I think a lot of people read. It was something like setting up hourly reminders on
yeah.
iPhone and Apple Watch to wash your hands, just to have something to kind of just put on people's radar.
Totally. And then next up, there's some new stuff with Siri. So on iOS 14, there's a whole new thing with the Translate app, which is brand new from Apple, where you can translate between 11 different languages, from English to 10 other languages, or vice versa. And it works over the internet, over the network, or if you have no connection, it can work on device. You just won't have as good of results probably. Um, and so,
Mm-hmm.
so now in
Mm-hmm.
watchOS 7, you've been able to ask Siri to translate things like how do you say um, cheese in Spanish, for example. But now you can have it's much more than that. Siri looks a little bit different on the watch now. And importantly, if you're using dictation and there's no connection to the internet, before you had to have the internet to dictate, and now
Right.
you can do that without the internet. So if you want to like you're in like a notes app like drafts, for example, you can do dictation with your voice to make the note without having internet. So if you just have a Wi-Fi only watch or you're in a bad connection, then now you can turn your voice into text without having to rely on the internet because the watch is smart enough to do it on its own. So that's neat.
Yeah, it really is.
And then finally, a couple more things. So, last year we got the noise notifications where if the watch detects that sound is above a certain decibel level for an extended period of time, it's not safe for your long term hearing health. Now the watch goes a little bit further,
Yeah.
and it can determine that if you are playing your headphones for too long, you'll get an alert that hey, this isn't good for your hearing. You can receive weekly listening summaries of like how loud your headphones have been per day, kind of like your activity level, but for how loud your headphones have been basically. And then you can also reduce the max volume level for headphones so that you can say never go above 80%. And so that if you max it out, it's actually at 80, not 100. So just kind of
Yeah.
more on how the watch can handle hearing health. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just like what responses are, especially when the software is released in the fall to everyone. But I have to imagine, like, especially young people are going to be probably, it'll be a surprise to be like, wait, this is bad for me to be doing what I've been doing for years.
Yeah, I tell you. And then like two more things to discuss. So WatchOS 7, it's in developer beta now. It'll be in a public beta in July. It's not for the Series 1 and 2. So the first generation Apple Watch that people often call Series 0, it was dropped from support a while ago. Since then, Apple's done every watchOS update for the Series 1 and 2 and up.
Yeah.
And the Series 1 is like the first gen watch, but with the Series 2 chip. I guess it's called S2 chip. And this is the first time since then that we've dropped an older version of the watch. And so it's the Series 1 and 2 that are dropped with the S2 chip. Or I think Series 1 was called S1P or something. But
Yeah.
so for
Yeah.
watchOS 7, you'll have Series 3, 4, 5, and then obviously, whatever comes out in the fall or so. And so there will be some watches that are no longer supported by watchOS. They'll be stuck on 6 point whatever they're on right now.
Hmm.
And so a lot of these new features won't be available on some watches that are in use. So, and they also say that some features from watchOS 7 won't be available on all watches. So I'm not sure the breakdown yet on like what can the Series 3 do that the Series 4 or the Series 4 and 5 do that Series 3 can't.
Right.
But I think there'll be some differences there. Critically, you can do sleep tracking with the Series 3. So that's what I care the most about is can you still use your Series 3 watch for tracking sleep at night
Yeah.
with the built-in stuff? And the answer to that is yes. So that's a good to know for now. And then finally, there's always been this element of pressure sensitive displays on the watch where you've got like tap the screen to interact with it or press in firmly to like go through a layer and you're in this like new element and that's how you customize your watch face, for example.
Yeah.
Or if you're in the calendar, how you change your calendar view. and it's both good and bad. On the good side, it's like you can do controls that are kind of invisible without having a bunch of buttons everywhere. Um, it's like this hidden button. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there seems to be like what I got impression from the keynote is that people often don't change their watch face or customize it. That it's like what they get out of the box is what they use, and Apple seems to have some data on that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so that's always been kind of behind the Force Touch, and now that's just long press, and it's good in that it's easier to discover now. Like you just hold your watch on your finger. There's no like press under the screen, and that was always kind of like nebulous way of doing things. Long press is understood, like hold your finger and wait, and that's okay. In places like calendar though, you have an alert that says go to settings to change the calendar view now because they haven't put it in like the app itself.
Yeah.
So I think that in time can be kind of reconciled, but for now
Yeah.
it's a step back. But even like in clearing your notifications from the locks from notification center, that's been like browse through them, then force touch, then
Clear
clear,
all.
and
Yeah.
now it's like I'm kind of coming around on it being gone because now it's
Okay.
scroll through, you go from the bottom to the top of the list, and then there's a clear all button there, and it's actually like one less tap because it's not like press in and then tap, to confirm. It's like tap,
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of a mixed bag there. But
I think
the
I'm
yeah, go
not
ahead.
on watchOS 7 yet. I'm
Uh
still
huh.
on 6 on my my main watch, and I think
Smart.
I'm just feeling ahead of losing it.
Yeah.
I think I'm just feeling a little bit nostalgic just because I have iOS 14 on my iPhone 10 that does have 3D touch,
Oh,
the equivalent of Force Touch on watch,
yeah.
and like and so I'm using my iPhone 11 Pro alongside my iPhone 10 now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like I think I'm just still a little bit attached to Force Touch 3D Touch. Just I think maybe just how I think I just love the feedback.
Yeah.
Just that little bit of feedback is
And
nice,
that
but I know I'll get used to it. But
Yeah, and that's where like the watch had Force Touch, and it was like this whole new. I mean, they kind of bragged about it as like being this whole new way to interact because you've got a limited, screen size and everything.
yeah,
And then it came to the iPhone 6S, and it was called 3D Touch because it wasn't just like touch anywhere to activate it. It was like touch in specific places. So there's like a new dimension of it. And then it went away with the 10R and the 11 and 11 Pro phones, which gave you better battery life. So it seems to be that with like an Apple Watch Series 6, they're preparing the way because they did this with the iOS 13 beta where phones
hmm
with 3D Touch lost that feature in favor of, I guess they call it haptic touch, where it's like a long press.
yep,
Um, and if I imagine that if they take it away from a new watch and the feature that also gives room for like more battery or something, or just like so multifaceted
yeah,
in terms of like what do they address here. I think user like feature discoverability is a big reason that they've done this too, like to put
yeah,
visual elements of like what you could do that were previously hidden.
hmm
And so we'll all get used to it. It's just like this came from the watch, went to the phone, went away from the phone, and now it's like having it's the same moments happening on the watch. So,
yeah.
but it's
And then
not
I
like
mean,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's not like the watch's like biggest thing to me in terms of like user interface or
Yeah,
interacting with it is the digital crown for scrolling where
yeah,
that was like they presented it as like we've had the mouse, the trackpad, now you got the digital crown because if you just scroll your finger you're covering up the interface in that moment, but if you scroll with the crown then the screen's not obscured, and that's not going away, so
yeah,
that's kind of like the signature watch contribution to sort of interacting, as like input method. So more
yeah,
important than 3D touch and force touch.
for sure.
Yeah,
Someone asked there, do you see Zach? Have you seen if Series 3 will get the hand washing detection feature?
that's a good question. My Series 3 is in the other room. Hmm. Yeah, I'd have to go check in the other room. I'll try to find an answer for that and do a story. If it doesn't get it, then I'll do a story on 9 to 5 Mac about it. How about that?
No news is good news. If you don't hear, then we're good.
Yeah. Before we head off, let's do look at the chat. Chance Miller says good morning. So he's our colleague at 905 Mac. Good morning, Chance.
Hey, Chance.
Yeah. And by the way, thanks for people who tuned in. Like I this was all impromptu. We did not plan it until like a few minutes ago. So this
Yeah.
is awesome. No new watch announcements today. That tends to come in the fall, paired with an iPhone event. So we probably think September we'll see like a Series 6. Something I'm curious about too, Michael, is we tend to know a lot more about what's coming than what's been announced, and so we
Hmm.
expect these features that are in development that haven't been announced yet to still come, like school time, the ability for a parent to set up a kid's Apple Watch without having the kid have an iPhone 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think those things could still come in iOS 14 and watchOS 7, if not saved for another year. But I could totally see that being like tied to hardware where it's not hardware required, but they've got a cheaper version of like kind of like an Apple Watch SE, where it's like the body of an Apple Watch Series 3, but with a new processor in it. So it's got
Yeah.
all the new watchOS 7 features, maybe even like the new like advanced sleep tracking that we might expect. So I think that could still come in the fall alongside new watch updates. The blood oxygen sensor, detection stuff that we reported
Yeah.
out. We really think that'll be hardware related, and so maybe that's the same thing where like, for the first time you got like a Series 3 style watch, but maybe it can do ECG and this new blood oxygen detection stuff, and like you got all the features on both watches. The price difference, though, fall detection. The price difference then would be: do you want this design or this design in these materials? And
Hmm.
so then it's not. And we've seen that like with the iPhone, where you get all the same features for the most part. There's some differences in the cameras, but it comes down to like the premium screen quality and the premium like case,
Yeah. Aluminum or
materials.
stainless steel.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So I can see that happening. Series 2, no WatchOS 7. That's too bad. WatchOS 6 though is good, and Series 2 has been around for a while. We have seen in the data that whenever Apple announces, they don't really share like watch numbers, but they will say that I think one stat has been that most watch sales are first time watch sales and not upgraders. So they have seen this behavior where people buy the Apple Watch and they don't upgrade it like they do an iPhone even. And
Hmm.
so, limiting watch faces has been one thing from watchOS 6, where Series 3 only got a few, and Series 4 and 5 got many more. The different health features that are available on the newer watches. Um, this time, we're going to see software be limitation. And so you could see some of the buzz about the new software wanting people to upgrade. It's like, oh, I've had this watch for, 3 years now. Maybe I want the new one. And that will be even better if there's a new watch that is still cost effective, but with all the features that like Series 4 had, for example. Probably
Yeah.
not an always on display. That still could be, Series 6, but you'd have like all the Series 4 features, but in a Series 3 design. That would be pretty
Yeah.
neat. All
That
just
makes
speculation, but there.
No, that makes so much sense. I mean, look how much success Apple's had with, the new iPhone SE and, bringing
Hmm.
bringing a lot of, like you're saying, bringing a lot of the core features, but making it palatable for.
Or even the iPad. I mean, it starts at 329 and goes up to $1,000. So
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of range there, and they're all very good. Michael B asked, "Do you think there'll be a watch face store in the app whenever watchOS launches?" Right now, the watch app is kind of funny that you've got for two versions. You've had the app store is gone now. It's now in the watch app or on the app store. I bet that becomes that, or face gallery becomes like, here are all the watch faces that are loaded with an app complication, and that's where
Hmm.
you kind of get those. And it'll be kind of neat to see like what is the most popular watch face that developers use. Probably, you know, infograph modular, where it's just big, lots of complication options. But that would be kind of neat to see. I love the example of, I forget the name of the app, but it's like a parenting app for like new parents. Um,
Oh yeah, with the one that was showcased.
yeah,
Was it Glow Baby Glow or something, or
sounds about right. Yeah,
something
that
with glow in it? I think.
yeah, they use that as an example. They use kind of a surf app and then Nike Running Club, and that's neat. Like I could totally see that. It kind of makes me want to have another kid, but it's like,
Hands on test it.
yeah, that's right. So, well, I think a 7 and a 2-year-old is enough for me for the moment.
Yeah.
Someone had asked if the fourth generation watch will be cheaper, and the answer there, that someone else answered, is that it's been discontinued since the Series 5 because it was so similar. There's too much
Hmm.
kind of overlap between that to have in the market. But you can find those like secondhand or even like in other retailers for less. I would say though the Series 5 and the always on display is worth going for. If you're not going to do a Series 3, for example.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of discussion around like charging times, and I totally agree with that. It's like they're doing sleep tracking now, but they didn't nail down like what's the best charging strategy. It's the same as a story with third party apps where if you've got one watch, you've got to like charge it for an hour or so during the day. And I tried doing that for the first couple of days to see like what is the new watchOS 7 experience like. And
Mm-hmm.
man, it was kind of like range anxiety in an electric vehicle, or
Yeah.
like if your gas tank is on E, in an older car, and it's like I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Like what can the watch handle today without? And I was like charging in the morning and
Yeah.
in the evening, and it was kind of just like anxiety inducing. And so now I'm like back to the two watch method, um, and that'll I think it's kind of unfortunate, but maybe we'll see that change in the future. Yeah, and then last question: do you think the casings will be the same as Series 5 and 6? Um, you know, like design wise, I don't think we'll see a new design yet. Material options, they love to play around with that, and especially if the design hasn't changed, where I could see like a new shade of something, you know.
Mm-hmm. New
Um,
finish on
there's
an
so much
existing material.
opportunity for aluminum to have colors like the 10R and 11 phones have had.
Yeah.
There was that rumor of the red Apple Watch that we haven't really seen yet. That would be
Right.
kind of an aluminum watch. So maybe there. There was that leaked. Maybe it's official, maybe it's not. Leather loop that had like a new style. Maybe that one would be water resistant, and that the current one is not. So that's kind of the things that we're watching for in the fall. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, otherwise, it's kind of light on rumors there so far. It's just based on what we've reported out in March that we haven't really seen come yet. But yeah, watchOS 7. I mean, it's also really fast. I've noticed like
Okay.
it zips around, so it's one of those betas where it just feels it's pretty good so far. When there's a public beta available in July, like I wouldn't discourage people from trying it if you're curious. So
That's great to hear.
yeah, yeah. All right, that is the 95 Mac Watch Time podcast for this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode, in the usual format of audio only. In the meantime, thanks to everyone who has viewed this hour-long episode on YouTube. It'll be available on demand from now on, for this episode, on youtube.com/95mac, or 95mac, and it'll also be in the show notes link, so you can check it out if you want to there. And with that being said, thanks for joining me, Michael Potuck. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right.
Happy Dub Dub, everybody.
Yeah, happy Friday. All right. Bye, everybody.